Oh, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So happy to have you with us again this evening on Monday. Wow, beginning of the week. I can't believe we're 4 days into our intensive. It takes a lot of time and preparation to get all of this together. It's very concentrated because it usually takes about 2 weeks to get everything together. And when we start rolling, we really move very quickly. Uh, my name is Nicholas Viselli. I'm the artistic director of Theater Breaking Through Barriers, and yes, coming to you as live can be from high atop the glorious Thunderdome on a cold night. It feels again like we're in winter, but that's March, right? And I want to welcome all of you to our fourth Virtual Playmakers Intensive, or VPI 4, Transformations. I just love the lightning bolts that are coming out of my head there. I think that's kind of fun. Anyway, I just want to say we've had a really wonderful intensive. The weekend was extraordinary. We had 3 extraordinary shows. I did promise you it's the equivalent of 10 grand finales in a fireworks display. So, and tonight we had sort of a light comic weekend, which I think was wonderful. Tonight's play, I would say, is much more, how can I say, meaty, okay? If comedy is an appetizer, well then consider this like a nice main course meal. And I think it's such a powerful play and a beautiful play, and I hope you enjoy it as much as we do. When I read it, it's just like incredible. The play was written by Chris Phillips. We've had the good pleasure of working with Chris now for, I think, two of our virtual intensives, I think. But his work is just extraordinary. It's 3. Oh my goodness. We'll talk more about that after. But every play has just been powerful. That just gives you a great insight to this talent that he possesses. And it was so brilliantly directed by Kristin Heckler. Kristin has been working with us as well, and I'm just feel so blessed to work with her because she's such an incredible director. And we have, again, this stellar cast: Melanie Portsche, Jaleesa Graham, Shravan, Amin, and Bree Klauser. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, I'd like to turn us over to our wonderful and beautiful audio describer, the brilliant and dazzling Anne-Marie Morelli. Hope you enjoy your show tonight. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, everyone. Again, welcome to TBTV's VPI 4 Transformations. I'd like to remind you all that our stage is your computer screen. Characters will appear in separate Zoom boxes on your screen. So currently, our stage is dark. Tonight's audio descriptions will actually be inserted throughout the play. We Can't Sleep, written by Chris Phillips and directed by Kristin Heckler, features, in order of appearance, Shravan Amin as Sharad Aurora, a television production coordinator; Jaleesa Graham as Denise Sharp, a private investigator; Melanie Portsche as Lynn Sawyer, a Hollywood executive; and Bree Klauser as Anna Devane, Sharad's girlfriend. Without further ado, our screen pops to life. Sharad appears. He talks directly into the camera, a video diary from 2 years ago. Sharad sits in his bedroom, paintings on the wall behind him. He is American of Indian descent, slim, mid-20s, a snarky spin to his expression and a feisty energy. He wears all black.
Hey there! Post-film school diaries, entry... Oh, geez, what is this?
He looks at some notes.
58. Wow. Finally, some happy news for the, dozens of people who are actually watching this. Yes, at long last, I'm out of competition show hell and will be starting an actual production next week. In the mountains of Virginia, if you can believe it. Many thanks to my USC film geek buddy Caitlin for hooking me up with Golden Television on a show where I will undoubtedly be the only brown-skinned individual on set. Always a fun time.
Denise appears in her home office. Denise is black, early 50s, and outward steeliness that hides a warmth at her center. She's wearing business casual attire. She stares at the screen with furrowed brow, as if watching the video diary for the first time.
The next diary entry will be transmitted from the Appalachia set. Huh? Until then, I'm sure you're dying to hear about my last day watching amateur bakers and their goods melt under the lights of a Burbank studio.
He makes a dramatic welcome gesture.
Showbiz, kids. It's so fucking glamorous.
Sherrod disappears. Lynn appears in her corner office at Golden Television. Lynn is white, late 40s, a crisp professionalism and a well-rehearsed confidence about her that instantly flags her position as an entertainment industry executive with the requisite power suit. Denise changes posture, all business now.
Thank you for meeting with me, Miss Sawyer.
I have exactly 5 minutes, Ms. Sharp. The matter of Sherrod Aurora's disappearance was closed.
Not for Sherrod's parents.
We cooperated fully with the police, both here and in Virginia, and no charges were filed. We conducted an internal investigation on our own dime and found nothing. Yet obviously, in hiring you, they refused to let it go.
Do you have children, Miss Sawyer?
No.
Then let me assure you that if your only child vanished without a trace, you take issue with anyone who told you to let it go.
Of course. I apologize.
Sherrod was being intimidated, belittled, and harassed daily by a bigoted crew.
There's no evidence of that.
He spoke openly about it in his video diaries.
And the production team refuted those claims.
Yeah, claims which they and you have a vested interest in covering up.
Excuse me?
Were you on the mountain the day that he disappeared?
No, I was here in Los Angeles.
So the production team told you that a healthy 25-year-old man jumped off a cliff in broad daylight, leaving not a scrap of evidence to his whereabouts. And you didn't think that there was something off about that?
Ms. Sharp, I personally made sure the director faced responsibility for it happening on his watch. But that doesn't mean my people had anything to do with Sherrod's disappearance. I can't explain what happened to him. No one can. For all we know, this was some freak act of God.
It's funny. That argument never seems to hold up in court. No matter how many in God trust we signs are hanging over the judge, almost makes you question our sincerity.
You, Ms. Sharp, are a private investigator. You're not a cop anymore. You have no legal claim to demand anything from us.
Denise stares hard into her.
I didn't know Sherrod well at all, in fact, but from everything I heard, he was a troubled, angry young man. Did it ever occur to you that he wanted to disappear? Perhaps we should honor his wishes and let him stay lost.
And if you know anything about me, Miss Sawyer, you know that I'm not inclined to accept official explanations, especially when the only people that they serve are the officials in question.
See, this isn't about Sherrod. This is about your daughter.
A crack in Denise's composure.
Golden Television considers this investigation closed. Don't call me again unless you have something more than the unfounded claims of grieving parents looking for someone to blame.
She hangs up the call, disappears. Sherrod appears, sitting in his hotel room from the Virginia set of Appalachia. Denise seems to acknowledge him. Sherrod smiles softly at her. Denise disappears. Lynn appears.
Hello, Sherrod.
Good to virtually meet you, Miss Sawyer.
I don't normally meet with production coordinators,
Sherrod nods.
but I wanted to let you know personally that you can come to me if you have any issues.
Issues?
Well, if you have any problems on the set.
What kind of problems?
Well, I don't anticipate any. It's an experienced crew. This is the 3rd season of the show. The director knows what he's doing.
I'm sorry, did I miss something?
Last season, there were a few mild complaints that unfortunately were gossiped about a bit in the industry. I'm not sure if you were aware.
I heard a little noise, but what sort of complaints?
A lack of diversity in the staffing, some misinterpretations, that sort of thing. All unintentional, of course, but in the current environment, you understand.
I think so.
Great. Well, all I'm saying is that if you have any difficulties, and I don't believe you will, you can come to me first. Always best to handle these sorts of things internally, don't you think?
Of course. Of course.
Lynn disappears. Anna appears on her couch in her living room. Anna is white, mid-20s, looks like a Brooklyn hipster transplanted to Hollywood, with corresponding extroverted energy. She wears a bright pink sweater.
She basically told me I was a goddamn diversity hire. I've been working my ass off on 4 different shows for the last 3 years, and I'm still just a goddamn diversity hire.
Well, at least now you know what you're walking into.
According to her, I'm not walking into anything. It's all just a great big misunderstanding. Different show, same old shit.
Sherrod's cell phone rings.
Parents?
Hang on.
He answers the phone, sits up straighter in his seat. His demeanor, not to mention his voice, immediately changes.
Hi, Mom. Fine. I'm all packed, flying to Virginia tomorrow. A few months, like I said. Because this is what I want to be. This is closer to what I want to be doing, Mom.
He eyes Anna.
Nothing. About to go to sleep.
Anna clocks that he's lying to them, that he's not on a call with anyone.
Yes, I will. Every week.
He crosses his eyes. She smiles faintly.
I love you too. Bye.
He hangs up. Sherrod smiles at Anna. She doesn't return the smile.
What?
I hate when you do that.
Anna, you know how it is.
Why did they even bring you to this country if you gotta twist yourself into someone you're not?
My parents don't want to know me. Never have. Easier to just nod and smile and do my own thing. If they didn't pay for college, I wouldn't have even told them I was going to film school. Look, if you think about it, they're not much different from anyone else. People see what they want to see. I'm just helping them along.
I want to see you. I want to see you. What am I going to do without you for 3 months?
We'll figure something out.
I can't picture you in the middle of the freaking woods. I got to get back to work. Call you tonight?
Sherrod seems to stare into nothing.
Sherrod.
Huh? Yeah.
Anna blows a kiss and disappears. Sherrod looks straight into the camera, begins another video diary entry.
You think I give a shit about minors in Virginia? You think I want to be working on lame-ass reality shows for the rest of my life? I want to change the world, man! I mean, these guys up here on this mountain, they act like we're all still on some elementary school playground, defining their world by who they exclude from it. They've got no idea what I'm capable of. I want to see all the things I'm not supposed to see. Do all the things I'm not supposed to do. There's people like them all over the place with these big fucking dreams, but they can't see past the old ways of doing things that were laid out for them before they were even born. Call it tradition. Call it whatever. It's just staying in the same damn place. I'm so up to my neck in this bullshit. I'm ready to jump off a fucking building.
He looks at the screen. A sly, knowing grin sneaks up on his face, as if looking right into the soul of anyone watching.
I see you. I see you. I see everything. Ever since I was a kid, I knew that everything I was hearing, didn't matter who was saying it, was a lie. My parents, my teachers, my girlfriends, just talk, just repeating the same shit they heard from someone else, who heard it from someone else, without anyone asking whether or not it was actually true.
His eyes stare away from the center of the screen, as if talking to no one.
All my life, I just wanted someone to be straight with me. Just one person to be straight with me. To tell me the goddamn truth. I mean, am I making any sense? I'm not probably not making any sense. I guess I'm saying sometimes you just gotta take that leap. Who knows? Maybe you'll find out you can fly.
Denise appears. She and Sharad look at each other. Sharad disappears. Anna appears. She appears more disheveled than before and wears an oversized black sweatshirt to match her mood.
Miss Sharp, I appreciate what you're doing, but there's no mystery here. Sharad killed himself. Period. I don't know why his parents had such a hard time accepting that. Well, maybe I do.
Well, what does that mean?
The Auroras were traditional. Very traditional. They didn't know anything about me until Sharad died.
What makes you so sure that he killed himself?
Because I know.
Well, how do you explain the fact that no one ever found his body?
Ask the cops in Virginia. I didn't know it was my job to explain it.
And what about all the harassment that he encountered?
He didn't tell me anything about that.
So, maybe you didn't know your boyfriend any better than his parents did. The truth is, you don't know what happened on that mountain because he didn't tell you.
Maybe you're right. Maybe there was a lot I didn't know. But there's a lot you don't know either. Sharad came here with his family when he was 3 years old. He barely remembered India. He was thoroughly Americanized. He came here to live the American dream and all the Western materialization that comes with it. And yet, his parents hated everything about his Americanization. This presentation he put on for them. The mode of dress, the accent, the religious obligations, the expectation that he was going to marry a nice Indian girl. I'm not a racist, okay? I mean, obviously, I dated Sharad, but those people, they had him in a straitjacket. Sharad killed himself to get away from them. Look, I understand why you might be attracted to this case.
Do you?
I know who you are. You're Brandy Sharp's mother, aren't you? I marched at the protests. I understand how you're feeling.
Don't assume you know anything about how I feel, Mr. Vane, and I won't assume the same about you.
Sharad is dead. Let him rest in peace. And let his parents soak in whatever guilt they can feel. It's the least they deserve.
Anna hangs up, disappears. Denise puts her face in her hand. Sherrod appears. Denise looks up at him.
You know what's crazy? I loved being a cop. I did. And it'd be easy to say that my feelings changed after Brandy, but, and I mean, I'm not stupid. I heard the systemic racism thing before, but, I was a cop. I was a promoted cop. I was a Black female promoted cop. I thought it was just, mere hysterical, victimized whining. There was sure a few very public bad apples, but things had changed, right? I had to believe that, or I couldn't do my job. And then Brandy, or rather, the response to Brandy, the reaction to Brandy, a stupid traffic stop. I've listened to that tape a million times, and all the things that I ignored, are swept under the rug, or no, they didn't mean it that way. Everything, like just my whole life, it just all came into focus. Like my eyes had been looking in one direction, forward, the whole time, and I just couldn't see what I didn't want to see.
Sherrod watches her.
What we feel is meaningless. In the narrowest sense, it means nothing. So I wasn't going to get on television and talk about my feelings. Give me facts, give me statistics, give me events. Just give me the truth.
She leans forward and looks right into him.
They can't sleep. Your parents, they can't sleep not knowing. Do you sleep? Wherever you are, were you murdered? Did you kill yourself? Or did you just get sick of this world and all of its violence and its confusion and unanswered questions and just leave? I'm not going to find you, am I? You're gone.
A still emotionless look from Sherrod, and then he disappears. Denise pulls out her cell phone, dials.
Yeah, Mr. Aurora, this is Denise Sharp. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna return your retainer. After my initial research, I'm not gonna be able to give you the answers that you're looking for. I'm sorry.
She hangs up. She looks back at her screen, reaches over, and the screen goes dark.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's Chris Phillips, folks. That's a powerful piece. Ladies and gentlemen, could you guys please come back here? Thank you all so much. You can all, yeah, just come on. There you go. Melanie Portsche, thank you so much. Bree Klauser, Jaleesa Graham, Chris Phillips, Kristin Heckler, and they're Shravan, Amin. You guys, thank you all so much. I love this play. I love this play so much because it really, while we can certainly talk about the politics of this play, the fact that it deals with systemic racism, the fact that it deals with becoming a diversity hire in this climate, I find it so it's an important topic, very, very timely. And I want to talk a little bit about that. I'd love to ask. I'm going to try to ask you like one or two questions tonight, or during this first talk back about that. The second one I would like to maybe ask you a little more personal questions. And that's an incentive for all of you who are watching. So if you really want to learn more, come and see the second show. Chris, I love your work so much because it has this power to it. It is very thought provoking, and it is the kind of work that when it's over, it sort of hangs there and it stays with you, and it just it makes you really think and feel so much. I remember the first play you wrote for us dealt with someone who they made the decision they were going to go away, and they were saying goodbye to their family, and it's left ambiguously up in the air as to what he meant by go away. Does that mean, find some other place to live, or go away? The last play you wrote for us, it was also very powerful, dealing with how our world is in terms of and what would happen if you were able to move to a place where everything was wonderful, and now suddenly all of the elements that made you leave in the first place are now going to come back. How would you handle that? And this one is just equally powerful. What makes you tell me how you, sorry for the big setup, but I guess my big question is, tell me what sparked you to write this.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much to Kristin and the cast, who are just fantastic. I mean, whenever I start crying listening to something that I read, that I wrote, I know it's like, it's them. It's like, wow, you guys are taking this somewhere. I think to answer your question, and it's so funny, I hadn't really thought about the links between the 3 plays I've written for TBTB until you just brought that up. And I think it's just, I'm obsessed with the idea of the unknown. And certainly this one, I think, really doubles down on that. And there's so much that's unknowable. We think we know, we think we have the answers. What is truth? What actually happened? And this piece in particular just went off my, the lack of resolution. There's so much that goes on. It's like in Hollywood scripts, a lot of the time they want these neat little wrapped up endings, and everything goes in its box and goes in its place, whether it's a sad ending or a happy ending. And for me, that doesn't feel true a lot of the time. And this particular piece is inspired by 2 true stories, which we definitely don't have time to get into all that. But in both of those cases, what jumped out at me was how much we just were never going to know. And the families of the people involved were just never going to know. And I think that the performances that the cast gave tonight just really brought that out. There's so much loss and longing and unanswered questions. And I'm just really moved by it. So that's kind of where my head's at. Those are the questions that inspire me.
It really is interesting, though, the fact that, we like to feel that we have such control in our lives. And we like to always, I guess that's one of the reasons why we love routines so much, because routines allow us to sort of take control of our lives. And we are often told by people, you can take control of your life. You have control. You take charge. And I think that's a lovely thought. But there are way too many variables in this life that's really true. It's not. It's just not. There are things you can control, and there are things you can't. You control what time you get up in the morning. You can't control if the roof collapses on your head. You know what I'm saying? But you build such a great case for the ambiguity of it in terms of, did Sharad, was he just so fed up with trying to live this dual life that he decided he could not go on anymore? Or was it a situation that he was very happy and confident in who he is, and yet it was the outsiders, because he was who he was, that didn't like his kind, Mm-hmm. Regardless of the case, it just is so powerful. Kristin, I want to ask you about this, though, because you had this wonderful dilemma of, I don't say dilemma, but challenge to direct this piece. And you're working with, obviously, you're working with wonderful material, and you have 4 really great artists. And I will say, before I continue with the question, all of these, I've had the great pleasure of working with all of you, and I know your wheelhouse is tend to lie more in much lighter fare, like comedy and lighter things, and you do them all so well. Like you're so masterful at it, and it was so great to see your range to do something like this. So, what was this like? Tell me what it was like to work with these artists on this powerful piece.
Yeah, so it came together really easily in that Chris's writing is it's very real and naturalistic, and so the actors very quickly fell into the speech patterns and the interactions with each other. We definitely worked a lot on tactics because there's a lot of like asking questions and driving something forward. So we had to talk about that a lot, but I was really excited at the opportunity to challenge all these comedic actors to do something dramatic because I tend toward the very serious and dramatic as well. And Chris and I definitely are drawn to the same material, which we learned early on. So I think that we were a good pair to guide this comedy quad through a serious piece. Yeah. But also, in addition to the writing being naturalistic, I think that Chris created fully fleshed out humans. Like he managed in 15 minutes with 4 actors to create people that had interior conflict, they had exterior conflict, they had positives, they had negatives, they had things they were afraid of, they had things that they desired, and then the work is just done for you. Like we just worked on focusing each performer on what their character needs at any given moment. And, it just fell into place. Like you said, I had a great team of 5 and we just sewed it together.
You nailed it. You just nailed it. And the fact that you were the one to help shape and define. And yes, you had really 4 wonderful artists that just did such great work. You came together such a solid ensemble, a solid group. And I was so blown away by it because I'm so used to seeing you a certain way. And I know that sometimes this kind of material poses a bit more of a challenge for you because it's sort of not, Melanie is not one to play the heavy, okay? And to play a very serious, for Jaleesa to play a very serious private investigator. Bree, you to play a character who is, you get to see, normally you tend to be much more bubbly and animated, and to see you have to reel that in, that's just great control on your parts, but that's all brought to bear by a wonderful director and incredible writing. So I'm so impressed by it all. I find it also fascinating too that yes, you were able to pull all this together in a 15-minute piece. Many people have said to me, you can't do that in 15 minutes. Well, I know that's not true because this exists. Shravan, I want to start with you because you are the protagonist, the main character in this. You're the mystery. How did you feel about doing a piece like this? And I mean, like in every sense of the word. I don't know if you made any decisions as to what happened to you or what you thought. You don't have to tell us that if you don't want. But
I mean, if you want me to say, I can say I definitely made some decisions on what I did. I mean, do you want me to say it? I mean, I don't have
Don't spoil it for the second performance.
Okay, I don't want to spoil it.
You can reveal it in the second performance. So anyone that's watching, if you really want to know what happened to Sharad, you got to go to the second performance. Actually.
No, but it's really fascinating to dig deep into a part of myself that I've never done before. For like you said, I do more comedy, but doing something like this, it's like digging parts of my life that I'd never thought about out loud to myself. Like I've had them, feelings through middle school, elementary school, growing up in high school, college, even in acting, the industry. It's like I've had all these thoughts in my back of my mind, like what goes on, what I want to accomplish, what I can't accomplish because of the system, the way it exists, and the way the writing is. It's just laid out right there in front of you, and it's so easy to like dig. I'm not really articulating this well, but it's so easy to just like take the writing and then like use that to dig. It's like a shovel to dig parts of your life out.
Yeah.
So Yeah.
Again, what I loved about it was that that was so well conveyed. Like you felt this. You were doing some really complex things, and just the fact that it was we got a chance to see scenes where you had to do one thing where you were, in front of your girlfriend and having to deal with your family situation, and then having to deal with
Right.
where you were at the time and the people that you had to work with and how they treated you.
Yeah.
It's great work.
And a lot of that is so on the nose, I mean, it's like, it's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was beautiful. Jaleesa, my Jaleesa, I have to talk to you because everything I've really seen you do over the last couple of years, it's always had sort of a lighter feel. I'm sort of used to hearing you, seeing you have this wonderful little laugh, this little giggle that you have, and you incorporate it, and it's just a great personality. And you were just you were spot on. Like you were very clearly a private investigator. You were very clearly, in that vein. It was just so wonderful. How did that feel to play for you?
Yes, I think I definitely made it clear in the beginning that I never do like serious stuff. So it's definitely different. But I think it's important to try to do different things. I think Kristin and the team, everyone was very helpful, but definitely Kristin, I kept being on her about helping me, and she was great about just like helping me really get that side of me out, and just like using like Shravan had said, different experiences in my life and different things that I didn't necessarily think about much to kind of help bring this character to life. I enjoyed it, and the writing was great, and the team was great, so it made it easier. But yeah, it was very different. I love my comedy, but I think this is such an important piece, and I enjoyed it. So maybe I can try more serious stuff in the future.
You better. Yeah, I hope you do. I mean, because you have the range. I think it's all there for you, and you're amazing.
Thank you.
From the first time I saw you, I said, yeah, you're like I'm not really much of an actor. I've done some modeling, and I want to do more acting. But you're great. You're really great.
I have it somewhere deep down in there.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Bree.
Hi.
Hi, you. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. I loved what you were doing tonight. There was this again, you got to see some range. I got to see you in two scenes where you were we got to see a real shift in emotions, like this sort of happiness, being able to speak to your boyfriend, and then that turns to a little sourness and bitterness because of the way the way he's dealing, and the fact that he hasn't told your parents about you, and then the after effect where you feel you are convinced. Do you really feel that you're convinced that he killed himself?
We talking about me or Anna?
I'm asking Anna. I'm asking Anna.
Anna. Yeah, I think she definitely does, because I think that's the only answer she can really live with and go on with her life route. And yeah, like what's really amazing about this writing is that, well, it's really amazing. Chris's writing, and even though I do call myself more of a comedy person, when the writing is great, drama, I love drama. I love doing drama because it's exactly what you said, the different range and the colors that you can show. Because drama isn't one thing. It's life. It's showing all different colors. So yeah, I think in that scene and in that moment, which is 2 years after he disappeared, I think at that point she's grieved and she wants to move on with her life, and that is, after the cycle of grief, that is the conclusion she had to come to, and where she didn't feel the blame.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, again, you have a lot to work with. You amazing in the writing, Chris. Also amazing in how you directed it, Kristin. And that you got everyone got to show their range and their colors. in terms of whether it is going from sort of a happiness to a very serious depression, or from sort of a determined anger, a determined tenacity, to ultimately this hopeless feeling that I'm never going to know. There's just such great range in this. It's really amazing. I'm really blown away by it. So Melanie, you represent the establishment.
Yep.
Forgive the sexist expression, but you are the man. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's I'm fascinated by that, because that is so opposite of who you are. What did it feel like to have to play that?
No, it was first day was saying these amazing words that like Chris made this so easy because he writes with such clarity, and I have just so enjoyed digging into his words. So it came pretty easily. I also did a little research on one of the impetuses Chris had for this. One of the young men that inspired this piece, and I am still haunted by that young man's picture. Several pictures in the article that I read, and the life that he had in him, and that I didn't even know of this actual disappearance, and then the way it was handled, and the story has haunted me. So I knew what I had to do with the establishment, especially given that actual story in real life. It has stuck with me. So yeah, I knew where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do, and I had such wonderful direction and cohorts in this and writing. And shout out to Anne Marie's audio description.
Yeah,
her beautiful, beautiful voice.
It was wonderful, and it was great to see that side, that transformation in you that I don't get a chance to see. It was really great. We had talked. I know that you had asked me earlier if we should do a disclaimer at the top of this, because it's dealing with some really heavy-duty themes. Of course, certainly suicide being one of them, which I think is we can spend the next couple of hours talking about that. So I feel we need to acknowledge it, but it deals with also other very, very heavy, important topics. It does deal with suicide. It does deal with systemic racism, and the third thing I'm going to talk about, which I want to sort of try to get some answers from you guys, and then I can give you guys a bit of a break before we go to the next show. Which I'm sure you all have definite opinions about. If we want to talk about, I know how we all feel about systemic racism, and I know how we all feel about a subject like suicide. But what I really want to talk about is the idea of diversity casting and being cast because you are a diversity. I think it feels like the opposite end. Like you can't get a job because you get typed out because you're not this, or you're not enough of this, or you're too much of that, or whatever. And then suddenly we all become a woke culture, and now we swing to the absolute opposite end, which is now we must hire you so that we don't appear as if we are being racist or discriminatory. And I want to get your thoughts on that, because that's our business and our profession. So does anyone have any immediate things they want to just sort of jump in on?
Well, I certainly can't speak on race, but I can speak on being a person with disability and what that's like. I remember when I booked my first big job, even having that in the back of my mind, like, did I only get it because I fit a quota? Even though everything in this business, it's your talent, but also being in the right place in the right time, and things just happening for a reason, whether you believe in anything or not. but I think that is something that anyone of a marginalized group at some point in their career, whether it be in performing arts or in any other kind of industry, I've definitely been a diversity hire at survival jobs and things like that, when it's like, I definitely don't have any experience in this, but hey, I guess they needed someone with a disability. So, and yeah, sometimes it is to your benefit, but a lot of times, at least from my experience, there's always this like imposter syndrome, which actors already deal with, like no matter what your background, we always deal with that. But I think there is that when you are filling that authentic role. And then there's also the perception, and I've heard this from some of my friends who are people of color, who of the idea of not being this enough. In my case, it would be like not being blind enough. For other people, it might be that they don't have the right shade skin tone, or the right expression, and that plays into the idea of like tokenism and stereotypes. So even though, yes, we are all benefiting for so much more diversity and inclusion that we're seeing in the media, there's still this tokenism that we deal with whatever your category, your marginalized group is, whether you're a person of color, a person with disability, person of a varying sexual orientation or identity. I think there is some image in Hollywood or Broadway that they're like, no, this is this, and if you deviate outside of that circle, we can't even include you.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's absolutely true, and it's and it's a rigged game in a sense, because our artists, especially actors, performing artists, writers, well, let's just go with actors in this case, are desperate for work. We want to work. And so you sometimes feel you often have to sell your soul. And it's like, well, if I have to be more of that, well, then I'll be more of that to get the job. Although it's not right. I mean, it's so tough. And it really reflects, to me, of the fundamental flaw in the logic, which is the idea that whether you're making a film, whether you're making television, whether you're doing theater, you create that reality. Like it's up to us to make those decisions. And so rather than sort of, saying, no, this performer came in an audition for me and they just blew me away and they're the one for the role. Instead of, and looking beyond the disability or looking beyond the tone of skin and being able to say, this is the artist who's right for the job. Yeah. We're not at that point yet. We'd rather just check off boxes at this point.
I even feel that way, like, even when they give people awards, like when people talk about Ali Stroker and they say she was amazing, even though she was in a wheelchair. No, she's just amazing. It should end there.
Yep. It should end there. And unfortunately, in our world, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't. And everyone, and art institutions are so afraid about it because they know that if they don't do that, they will be called out. Mm-hmm. And that is, so I don't know. The answer is just change your way of thinking. Like, you do have the power, you do have the control, and it does mean just just the shifting of the focus. We grow by, we learn from our stories. That's how we learned as children. And if you're telling a good story, an engaging story, I don't care who you have as artists and who you may feel is right or wrong. If you tell it well, people will come along for that ride.
Absolutely.
And I think that's, I mean, I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts or feel differently about it? I know it's a tough topic, but it's an important one because it's something that we as a theater company are always pushing for. Like the goal for us is to create a common ground for everybody and work together as artists, not as disabled artists or as Black artists or as Asian artists. No, artists, and that to me, I think makes the best work. Because it's talent. That's all it is. Mm-hmm. Do you guys have any thoughts? Like, good or bad?
No, I was thinking. I think I want to reiterate what you and Bree said. Like, there's this how do you call it? This woke movement, right? There's it's this complicated movement, right? In some ways, it's necessary, but in some ways, it's also, in my opinion, causing a lot of negative effects. Like, for example, you mentioned theaters being fearful of producing anything without being called out. People, actors like me, questioning whether they're getting cast just because they're brown or black or disabled or whatever it is, disability they have, you know, or whether you're winning an award because you fit this little identity, right? And like like a lot of people, I just want to steer away from that because it just, the artistic freedom it suffers, you know, and I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's being called out enough because people are afraid to call that out without being called, you know, racist or, you know, phobic, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it's, I'll say it, but that's the way it is, right? I mean, that's what's happening.
I agree.
You know, and right. I mean, my ultimate goal is just artistic freedom, you know, like, I'm not gonna, like, you write a piece that's offensive to me, I'm not gonna call you out on it. I'm just gonna, we'll talk about it. You know, we'll amend it, or if not, it is what it is. That's the artist's vision come to life, you know, and like.
And the great thing about theater is it there are times it should offend. There are times that
exactly
it should confront you in a way that you suddenly, like, you know, challenge your belief system. Why do you think that this is wrong? You know, and is it wrong? And if you can present something that's balanced, or in the case of this play, something that leaves questions, it leaves an ambiguity that it leaves the audience to sort of think about it and wonder, isn't that great? I mean, isn't that like great I don't want to say medicine, but great food for your soul.
Food for thought, yeah.
When you can walk away saying, yeah, please.
I was just gonna say again, like also from the other side, Chris and I were a white pair putting together this piece that is so race focused. And big confession, I used to be really afraid of producing or directing work that was about a race other than my own. Especially like in grad school, I felt a lot of pressure about that. Like, I love Susan Laurie Parks, for example, but I just was like, how could I ever, and maybe still kind of feel that way. But I feel like it's also on us as white artists to accept that, like, we're going to create a diverse group and we're going to be open to everybody's voices. And Chris and I had very open dialogue with the artists as we went to adjust like language or drives or whatever, to make sure that it felt authentic to the experiences of people of the races that we were confronting. And I think that we have to do that work on our end. Like, while we're always like focusing on casting more diverse and stuff like that, we also have to be open to hearing feedback and to telling stories that are a different racial background than our own, so that those stories get out there, so that more of those stories are produced and confront that fear. And I got to confront one of my fears doing this piece, and I feel like we had like a really successful, great time. And just wanted to like say a little bit about how, you know, from the other side of the table, what the work looks like.
Thank you so much for saying that, Kristin, because there's just two things very briefly. One, for the record, and I know the audience knows this, the way we cast this, it was random. I literally left it up to destiny to decide. It was all from pulling names out of a hat. So, you know, and also for the record, there is a great deal of, if you see the scope of this intensive, last night we had a play that was an all-male cast. The night before we had a play that was an all-female cast. We have plays coming up that were written and directed by people of color, and most of the cast are white. They're Caucasian. So it does a lot of that, and that to me, that to me is fair. That to me is equal. And most importantly, it's art. You know, this is a workshop. we can make mistakes. We can play, and we have to allow ourselves that. We do plays, after all. We have to play. And that's how we learn. That's how we grow. And, you know, to be able to take a play like a Suzanne Laurie Parks play and have someone who would not traditionally direct that, or a few years ago we did a production of we did the A.R. Gurney play, The Fourth Wall, and we had a brilliant African-American director, Christopher Burris, directing it. And Christopher's great, you know, and it was like, but and the work that he had been doing, a lot of that work tended to be something that was very much not against, but very different from what he had been directing. So I love to be able to experiment that way. And I hope you guys do too, because I think it's a lot of fun for all of us.
I'd love to say one more thing on this from, you know, Kristin's perspective and mine's perspective. I feel like the most important thing when you are writing for an other group, whether you're a white person writing for people of color, or, you know, a non-disabled person writing for differently, I hate differently abled, why would I say that? A person with a disability. I think the most important thing in the responsibility is to not perpetuate the stereotype, because people learn, as you said before, we as children, we learn from stories and we learn from media. Yes, there are ways where, you know, when people of that own group, when you're perpetuating your own stereotype and, you know, commenting on it, that's different. But I think you need to be very careful when you're working with another marginalized group of not perpetuating that stereotype, because it can look innocent, but I think it's damaging. And I think one of the most wonderful things about Chris's writing and Kristin's work was that I don't think it perpetuated any stereotypes of what we think, you know, the Indian kid was like, or the black mom, or anything. Or if anything, I'm the stereotypical, I'm not a racist. Like, when I read that, I was like, you know, every time someone says I'm not a racist in a script, it's like, oh, you asking for it.
Yeah, I know.
But I think they did a wonderful job in that. And, you know, to commend Kristin, I hear that you were trepidatious about doing a racially sensitive piece, but I felt like because you didn't perpetuate stereotypes, that was a success. And
yeah, again, I think it was top down. It was brilliantly written. It was so well directed and orchestrated, and so beautifully acted by all of you. So thank you so much for that. I am now late because I'm sorry. This was a very engrossing conversation, so I'm sorry about that. I just want to thank all of you. Please, guys, go off stage because you have like 2 minutes before I have to go to the other network. But thank you all so much. If you like what you saw, please follow us. We have such great work coming up from now until Sunday, and I hope that you'll be able to come and see it all. You can go to our website, tvtv.org, see what we're up to. If you really love us, click the little donate button at the top of the page. We would absolutely love that, but we're just so grateful to have you with us and allowing us to share our work with you. Tomorrow, we have another great play by Stuart Green. I know you all know Stuart Green because the world knows Stuart Green. He is the angel on my shoulder, and he is just the master connector. He's brought so many artists to us, and I'm so grateful to him. The play is The Idols of March, and it is directed by, you saw the other evening, a brilliant actress and director, Estrella Tamez. Farida Ahmed is in this one, Jamie Petrone, David Harrell, Veronica Cruz. Powerhouse cast. Come see us tomorrow night, right here, 7:30, and at 8:30 on the other channel. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.